A very good evening and welcome to Reuters Nightly News on RTB News. I'm Adam Reed in London, bringing you the top stories today from around the world. On tonight's show, get ready for something big. North Korea sends out a warning to the world. Russia sticks up for Assad by blocking a UN motion to condemn the Syrian president. And later in the show, how Thais are celebrating the new year with the world's so-called biggest water fight. But first though, North Korea has told the world to expect something big to happen in the next few days. There are fears the North are getting ready for a sixth nuclear test. With tensions high on the Korean peninsula, all eyes will be on US President Donald Trump to see how he reacts if there is a test. The Americans have already sent a Navy fleet to the area and the North says it's ready for war. Francis Maguire has this report on how North Korea gets ready to celebrate one of its most important national holidays.
Get ready for something big. The message sent from North Korea to the world. The reclusive communist state is preparing to celebrate one of its most important events. The 105th anniversary of the day its founder Kim Il-sung was born. And traditionally on this day, the North likes to perform weapons tests as a show of strength to the world. But tensions are higher than usual on the peninsula. The North tested new weapons recently, drawing condemnation from its neighbours. And the US has sent a Navy fleet to the area as a show of force. The North's only ally, China, has called for a peaceful resolution to current tensions. But President Trump has warned the US is willing to take on the North themselves.
President Xi wants to do the right thing. We had a very good bonding. I think we had a very good chemistry together. I think he wants to help us with North Korea. We talk trade, we talk a lot of things, and I said the way you're going to make a good trade deal is to help us with North Korea. Otherwise, we're just going to go it alone. That'll be all right, too.
The North's actions also has Japan concerned. Their leader Shinzo Abe even warning of chemical attacks from the North Koreans.
Earlier this month, over 100 people were killed using this gas. We need to firmly grasp this reality and ensure that they, North Korea, do not go ahead and do this. That is the kind of the deterrence we need to have.
Today, the North opened a residential complex, saying it was scarier than hundreds of nuclear bombs. The country's leader, Kim Jong-un, was present for the event, a young man whose future decisions could well decide the fate of an entire region and millions of people.
To the US now, where President Trump says his administration won't label China a currency manipulator. That's a U-turn on one of his main campaign promises, where he accused China of devaluing its economy. Ryan Brooks reports.
Backing away from a key campaign promise, Donald Trump says he won't brand China a currency manipulator, a label he said he'd slap on Beijing on his first day in office as part of a plan to reduce Chinese imports to the U.S. Speaking to the Wall Street Journal on Wednesday, Trump said he changed his mind as China hasn't been manipulating its yuan for months. He also knows he needs to keep Beijing on side in the face of a growing threat from North Korea. The president says the U.S. dollar is getting too strong and that could take a toll on the economy. In his words, that's partially because people have confidence in him. He also says it's hard to compete with a strong dollar when other countries are devaluing their currencies. The greenback took a tumble after Trump's comments, forced down by his remarks on the strong dollar, and the fact that he says he wants interest rates to stay low, another statement at odds with his speeches on the campaign trail.
The American ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, has warned Russia not to isolate itself in the United Nations. That's after Russia blocked a Western-led effort at the UN Security Council to condemn last week's deadly gas attack in Syria. Pascal Davis has more.
Despite Western efforts to condemn last week's deadly gas attack in Syria,
those against?
Russia has vetoed the move at the UN's latest Security Council meeting. It's not the first time Bashar al-Assad's ally has blocked a draft resolution. It's the 8th. The United States, France, Britain and 7 other nations wanted to denounce a toxic gas attack on rebel-held Khan Shaykhun on the 4th of April and tell Assad's government to provide access for investigators and information such as flight plans. The attack led to the United States launching missile strikes on a Syrian airbase, widening a rift between the US and Russia. China, which has previously vetoed 6 resolutions in Syria, abstained from the vote, as did Ethiopia and Kazakhstan. Syria's government denies any responsibility for the attack, in which 87 people died. Russia has stood by that position, saying the poison gas belonged to rebels, or that the incident could have even been faked.
German police have arrested a man with Islamist links after a bus carrying a professional football team was hit by a pipe bomb. Borussia Dortmund were on their way to play Monaco in a Champions League game when they were attacked. David Doyle has this report.
Lucky that nothing worse happened. The word from authorities on Tuesday's explosives attack on the bus carrying top German soccer team Borussia Dortmund. The vehicle struck by pipe bombs with a 100-meter range, said Frauke Kohler, spokesperson for Germany's federal public prosecutor. 3 blasts shattered windows on the coach moments after it left a nearby hotel. Spanish defender Marc Bartra suffering a broken bone in his wrist and shrapnel wounds to his arm. 2 suspects from the, quote, Islamist scene have been identified and their apartments searched, Kohler said. 1 person subsequently detained. The Islamist connection came from 3 identical claims of responsibility left at the scene. These letters included demands that Germany's Tornado fighter jets be pulled out of Syria and that a US military base in Ramstein, western Germany, be closed. There was also a claim of responsibility from an anti-fascist group, but authorities said there was serious doubt about its validity. Borussia Dortmund had been heading to a Champions League clash with AS Monaco. The incident postponed that match by 24 hours. Chancellor Angela Merkel describing the incident as an appalling crime and praising the fantastic solidarity of fans from Germany and Monaco.
Time to take a look at other news now from around the world, and America's first ever female Muslim judge was found dead in a river on Wednesday. Police pulled Sheila Abdus Salam's body from the water in New York. Officials say they now don't yet know the cause of death. Abdus Salam was also the first African American woman named to the Court of Appeals in 2013. And riot police in Madrid clashed with fans of English football club Leicester City on Wednesday. Police stepped in when Leicester fans threw objects and flares in the city centre. TV images showed several Leicester fans were injured ahead of their team's match with Atletico Madrid. 8 supporters were detained earlier on Tuesday. Now, over in South Africa, protesters have taken to the streets of the capital Pretoria for President Jacob Zuma and calling on him to quit. It comes after an unpopular cabinet reshuffle plunged the country into a political crisis. Lucy Fielder reports.
Thousands protesting in South Africa's capital Pretoria Wednesday, piling pressure on President Jacob Zuma to quit over his firing of respected Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan. That's just one element of a cabinet reshuffle that has shaken South African politics. Zuma's holding out, but opposition parties reckon they can drum up the support to force him from office. They have called for a no-confidence vote on Friday. Gordhan's sacking has left the ruling African National Congress looking more divided than ever, with senior figures like Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa expressing anger at the reshuffle. Now the political crisis is getting in the way of much-needed reforms for Africa's most industrialised economy, with South Africa's credit ratings plummeting to junk after Gordhan's sacking. Zuma has survived 4 no-confidence motions, and he remains popular in rural areas. Few are willing to write him off yet, but the opposition wants the next one to be by secret ballot, a case South Africa's top court is considering. If that request is granted, the question will be how many ANC members, cloaked in secrecy, decide this time they'll vote against their boss.
A Hungarian university founded by the liberal billionaire George Soros is under threat of closure by its government. But the US is pressuring Budapest to keep the centre open, despite Soros being an opponent to President Trump. Matthew Larotonda has the details.
Pressure mounting for Hungary to suspend a law that could close a university founded by the heavy-hitting financier and philanthropist George Soros. Days of protests in the capital of Budapest as the United States and European Union call on the country's Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, to reconsider. And now, signs of compromise. The education minister suggesting Soros's school could stay open if it extends an agreement to teach courses from another Hungarian university. The incident is a story of odd bedfellows, because Soros, who was born in Hungary, is a fierce opponent of US President Donald Trump, donating at least $10.5 million to Hillary Clinton's campaign last election, according to a watchdog group. And he's also a major financier to international civic organizations scrutinized by Trump's Republican allies. But this week, it was the Trump administration's State Department that came to the defense of the school, called the Central European University, a spokesperson fearing that the law would also affect other American university programs in Hungary. The law demands that foreign powers, such as the US, secure permission for private schools to operate in Hungary, a request unlikely to be granted from right-wing Prime Minister Orban, who's vilified Soros's liberal history. The anti-migrant, anti-EU Orban was one of the only European leaders who endorsed Trump's run for the White House. Yet, despite the mutual enemy in Soros, it doesn't look like they'll be joining forces on this debate.
Over in the US, there is a Native American reservation which faces being cut in half by President Trump's proposed border wall. The wall was one of Trump's campaign pledges to stop illegal migration across the border with Mexico. Bob Mezan has this report.
The reservation land of the Tohono O'odham, a Native American nation in southern Arizona, stretches across both sides of the U.S.-Mexican border. Up until now, members of the reservation have enjoyed a special privilege, having the ability to cross the border independently through 3 special entry gates. Now that privilege is under threat. Members fear that if a border wall is constructed, as promised by U.S. President Donald Trump, their community will literally be cut in half. Members of the nation actively use the border to seek work, see a doctor, or go to school, said the tribe's vice chairman, Verlon Jose.
And so the impact of a wall would not allow us to do those things on a regular basis. Let me ask you, how would you feel if you were forbidden to go see your relatives, whether alive or dead?
The Tohono O'odham's government has not ruled out a high-profile protest to raise awareness about their concerns, but they're hoping it won't be necessary.
We want to try to deal with this in a diplomatic way, and hopefully that we never have to get to that time where we have to actually physically protest. If we do, I will tell you that I will own up to the words over my dead body, because that's how important it is to our people.
Verlon's cousin, Francine Jose, also lives close to the border. She worries a wall would divide her community. Tribal leaders say instead of a wall, the border could best be protected with high-powered surveillance cameras, better access roads, and more personnel.
And finally, Thailand is celebrating its new year with the traditional Songkran Water Festival. But the death of the king last year has put a slight dampener on events. Amy Sawita-Lafavre has the details.
The biggest and wettest holiday on the Thai calendar. The Songkran Water Festival attracts thousands of tourists each year, but as the country still mourns the passing of its much-loved king, authorities are warning revelers to rein in the fun, urging against skimpy outfits and too much drinking.
I'm Amy Sawita-Lafavre in Bangkok, where despite the military government's warning to tone down the festivities and adopt a more somber mood, many are actually joining in the fun and games.
Armed with water guns and buckets, Thais and tourists alike are kicking off the weekend-long celebration with a splash.
Dubbed the world's biggest water fight, it's also one of Thailand's biggest tourist attractions, and authorities here are expecting some 500,000 visitors this Songkran.
Songkran is also a time when Thais pay their respects to their elders, pouring water through their hands as a symbol of purification. Since King Bhumibol died in October, many events across Thailand have been scaled back or cancelled as a sign of respect. The military government has also been fighting to restore what it sees as traditional Thai values, saying some customs have been corrupted by outside Western influence. But at this party, it appears no one is dampening the fun.
Good, clean fun. Well, that's it for this edition of Nightly News. Be sure to join us next week. Thank you for watching and good night.